lane, and he's going to be facing LeBlanc and should be able to survive there.
Yeah, Corki, a pretty common pick into the LeBlanc for scaling late game damage.
But on the side of PVB, they might be going late game side push, and they do go for the Fiora in this particular matchup. The Fiora newly buffed in the last two patches, since we did have some Fioras around the world in playoffs. Zeros versus Khan, and Khan definitely is going to have some great moments trading early, but as it feels like we always say in every Fiora matchup, that 2-item plus breakpoint, she's going to be looking happy.
She's going to be looking happy indeed, and I do like the matchup. Most of Hecarim's tools that are hard CC are quite telegraphed. For Rek'Sai, it's a bit harder at any point that Flash Knockout could happen. That outplay is difficult, but on land, we know Zeros is a great player. Top laners are numerous in Vietnam. He's been very good, I think, as well. Has been a player I've liked watching. I think he's been a very sharp overall, and it means if it is going to be a top lane focused game, as we talked about earlier, you got aggressive early junglers and an explosive top lane match.
And the fun part about it, Freak, is that we have different identities here. One team going to be desperate for the team fight. SKT, when they hit their items, they're going to look for the 5v5. Meanwhile, Fiora is always best parked in a side lane. She doesn't help you killing 280 carries like SKT has. She helps you in just split pushing down Nexuses with no one else around.
Yeah, I really do like Fiora into a Hecarim for PVB here. The only thing that he has to worry about is the Ignite early on, watching out for possible jungle ganks, because they will have the advantage in that all-in with the extra true damage that comes through. But once the Fiora starts to get some levels, it becomes so good in that side lane, and the Hecarim is going to have to play with the team.
Well, here we go into the game. Welcome to Summoner's Rift, our fourth game of the day. SK Telecom T1, the champions out of South Korea, a region that you expect year over year to bring the best teams into League of Legends. And 2018 was not that, and now the start of 2019, a stumble in game one, but the ability to bounce back. They've got two more games today, including that showdown with Invictus later on. SKT can immediately jump back up to the top. Phong Buffalo, of course, their last tournament leg on home soil, hoping for that first win.
And both teams have served up drafts that have a lot of internal consistency. The win conditions are clear, but they don't overlap, and that's what I love when it comes to competitive League of Legends, when you can read what one team wants to do and the enemy team has a differing win condition, because it can be so topsy-turvy as the game goes along.
Oh, interesting early game right here. The actual early trades help Zeros a lot. Gets to get the extra grasp HP, plus the trade itself is better, so even pushing Clid back, second Q gives him another +5 health. So very early game, Zeros is objectively winning.
He's already establishing dominance, alluding to the fact that later on he can indeed 1v2. Chases both of them out of the top side of the river. Khan is going to recall and refill his potion.
Jungle pathing here can be so interesting to track, because we've already talked about how in Champion Select, with the duo lanes being Ezreal Tom against Zyra Khan, our expectation is the play around those lanes is deprioritized, and topside pathing is what we do expect innately from Elise and Rek'Sai. Elise starting topside does potentially throw a wrench in that, depending on what she wants to do with the future camps.
You can see leashless for both these players. It does put them in complete fog of war. I don't believe any of these starts were actually spotted whatsoever, as it's going to be both players going to bottom side right away. It's red to Krugs in the one, but red down to blue in the other. They might meet over the scuttle before too long.
Meanwhile, on the top side here, Zeros going for those trades once again with Khan. One of the difficulties for the Hecarim here is that it's so hard to avoid giving those sweet spot hits to Zeros. Hecarim, with the early levels, doesn't have any way of avoiding it.
And pure 1v1, he's pretty much the sum total of how much damage he can do twirling around his Q like a helicopter. That's where his threat range is, but that's the only time you enter that as a Fiora, is to poke a Vital. So over time, you end up just winning the war of attrition as a Fiora.
One extra camp for the Elise in the early jungle pathing. Will get her close to 3, but not quite there. The ward helps, and looks like Clid is going to get that first bit of vision to the bottom side. Takes bottom scuttle and helps give a little bit of extra safety to that bottom side.
One of the reasons that Elise struggles is because of the fact that her Scuttle Crab is usually not after picking up the Krugs, and thus the fact that she doesn't have a fast Krug clear can mean she gets into some awkward spots. But this time, it looks like it might actually be a double Scuttle by Clid.
Yeah, Clid gonna go up to the top side, right through the mid vision there, easily seen. But on the top side, Zeros goes very close to Khan.
He's got to respect the fact that Ignite could be available, and of course, Rek'Sai nearby as well. Now, I did walk over a ward. They do know Rek'Sai is top river, but it means a force recall out. Now the attempt for the bottom side. Good flash away from Mata, stays alive. The 3v2 gets a summoner out, but otherwise an escape out of PVB.
Yeah, you can see Elise there trying to hold the cocoon for the Tahm Kench. Tahm Kench using the flash very early, then he changes targets, and they get the Devour out as well. The critical summoner burn is Mata. That flash for Tahm Kench not available for repeat focus.
And notably, Mata doesn't have Cleanse, so of course going on to him means that there's no Devour to remove him, so given that interaction, targeting the Tahm Kench makes a lot of sense.
And that lane actually in quite a good spot for PVB after the gank as well. I believe there were extra minions, so they can try and freeze here against the Ezreal. Ezreal, long range, can try and throw these Mystic shots, but it's getting very, very good for Big Koro and Pallet down here.
At the very least, stacking up the Spell Thief stacks that much issue. The farm so far pretty much equal. Nothing to speak of so far into this. The Elise able to pick up the dregs of her Krug camp that Klid did take away. Of course, the Raptors were stolen out as well. So pretty good counter jungling out of that SKT jungler. Now towards the top side, they of course know Elise is there. The controller went down, but you see Khan push away. Eyes on! That should be enough. Oh, he gets it vital! The heal might be enough. He's burning, but he'll stay alive. And there's no escape tools. Hecarim could not get out unless Zeros gives him the option to. There you're gonna have good damage out of the bite. The electrocute tags. One more hit will do it. The flash gets a stun. Does grab first blood for Phong Buffalo. Now Clint gonna flash forward as well. The vital is here. There's some good damage. Does he have the trade? Can he find the second? It's close. The health bar is below 100 each, but he's got to watch out for the Prey Seeker. Another grasp. The minion to grab both kills.
And this is the top lane action that we like to see. Just battling over slivers of health. In the end, it is the minions that take the advantage.
4 blinking health bars, but only Klid comes away unscathed. Super cool to see. Because it's early levels, those cooldowns aren't like they would be later in the game. So we actually had to watch it unfold to know who would come out ahead.
This deserves that PSA I was talking about earlier, Papa Smithy. The only thing the Fiora has to worry about early is the Ignite true damage for the all-in from Hecarim. And you can see Khan there goes for it. As Freak said, though, the small vital in addition to the potion chugging there is enough to keep Zeros alive long enough. And so they are going to secure the first blood, but Elise already used Repel and already flashed forward to finish that, so Klid can answer with his own flash.
And he does so much burst damage. Remember, this is Hail of Blades on the Rex. I've seen much more Conqueror recently, and means the front-ended burst is enough, and Zeros, the minion aggro, takes him down.
We already know the Korean teams are good about managing their minion waves, normally not in the PvP combat, but looks like it works pretty well for them here as well. And it's a 1,000 gold lead now for SKT. Mata's flash was burned 3 minutes ago. It's most of the way back up now, and if there is no further punishment on that cooldown, maybe that first gank was all for naught, as we did again see Klid take a camp and a half away in that jungle matchup, pushing a bit towards SKT here.
Very easily itemized. The Ninja Tabi, again, the very early trades are very comfortable for him, and now with Onslaught of Shadows available, a lot of threat top side, but Klid's actually bot side.
PVB is on a ward as well. A good knockup towards one. Plenty of CC coming in. Pallet just barely staying alive. Just back to his teammate. Over the wall goes Rek'Sai, but Klid's a bit alone on this one. Still the blast cone out. PVB slinking away with their lives. Looks like the health bar lead goes to the Koreans.
Yeah, I mean, that was some fancy moves, but also the summoner spell advantage, very big for the Koreans. All these bottom lane summoners were blown in that exchange. Klid then able to retreat to the dragon, and Ocean Drake here will go such a long way in helping out this laning phase.
Mata gets the interrupt on the Elise back. Elise not in any position to come and contest. So it will be Ocean Drake first spawn. A pretty high value Ocean Drake given that Corki, Hecarim, and Ezreal are all going to be spamming their spells to get lane control. Also notice the timer here. So first Drake around 7 minutes. Around 10 minutes, one other way you can attack Fiora is to go look for a lane swap and potentially look for Rift Herald and top turret damage, and to try to keep the Fiora down when the Drake is not there as a counter objective on bot side.
And especially since, in addition to this Ocean Drake, the early kill on top side meant Ninja Tabbies, plus Biscuits, plus Corrupting Potion sustain. This Hecarim doesn't have that much to worry about here until Zero starts to get some more DPS items. So Khan feeling very good about the way the early game has gone.
It's one of those rare games where helping the Hecarim get babied through what will be a tough laning phase might be more valuable than what an Infernal Drake brings in the late game. Just giving more now for a matchup that can only go one way. 3 Infernals, doesn't matter, still Fiora would get a lead over a Hecarim. It is nice to give him just a bit more staying power in the first 15 minutes.
Meanwhile, Faker also gets the blue buff in addition to the Ocean Drake regeneration for the Corki here, so he can continue to spam out. We all know the DPS that Corki can scale up to. We'll see if Phong Vu Buffalo can make some more offensive plays. We alluded to the fact that the Elise plus LeBlanc can try and combine to create some very scary combinations, but we haven't seen any sort of action towards the mid lane.
And I'm intrigued to see how much greed can come into the item buy. Obviously, you don't want to go Hex Drinker wherever possible as Corki. You want to mainline your big items, Trinity Force, Infinity Edge, a Zeal item. But because it's Elise and also LeBlanc, does he go try to really play around things and just sit on the Negatron, or does he have to go further than the Null Magic Man?
Can't wait to see, of course, that could turn into a Cal, which seems incredibly unlikely, but it could just be that 25 MR into the Trinity Force that you expect out of the champion. We'll wait to see that one come out a little bit later on. Now we've got a fight towards that top side as Klid looks for when the knock will come in, does not get her posted. Plenty of damage comes out here, and then even immune to the turret shot. That's going to be a great dive. 1 for 0 again, top side. Top has been a great camp, and Klid coming out on top every time.
Yeah, and even with that one, very close health bars. Here goes Elise towards mid.
Well, extra MR is going to help a little bit, but the red buff is on. If Shuhao can get into range, looking for this one, repels forward. So he's going to auto attack, but over the wall goes Faker, and he's going to stay alive, burning both summoners. Now into the bottom side as well, looking for that root. Not going to find much of anything. Just damage towards Teddy, and he can't quite get that kill as Ignite times out, and Matza keeps running, puts on the shield, and PVB cannot buy a kill.
Yeah, we're fighting all over the map. It's inches keeping people away. Khan and Zeros, of course, they're going to continue brawling.
Yeah. For another vital land. Ignite comes in as well. Riposte again. Is like gets the fear afterwards, and it forces the flash out of Zeros, so they know Klid can't hold back in. Just gets it now, though. This is pretty good damage, but he's under the turret once again. Stays alive with the healing. Not going to go for another Q right there, and Zeros will survive this fight.
All 3 lanes of action here, and again, they bring us back to the beginning where it all started, top side, to burn both summoners of the Fiora after the fact.
It's another one of those games where Klid is using his Rek'Sai ult off cooldown, it feels like, being all over the map. 100% kill participation, 2 kills to his name. A faster Black Cleaver can't hurt. We're going to get a replay onto one of these turret dives.
Yeah, look how close this actually was. So Klid does get the initial knockup. Khan saves the burst damage for after the riposte, which is essential. Then, as he comes out of the Rek'Sai ultimate, do have Khan in tower range, able to take that turret shot, so they're able to pull that one off. Early executioners picked up for him as well. The war of attrition will be won. They have so much sustain that we've been going over. Plus, that is going to help very, oh, there we go, another tower dive.
He's got the package. Riposte comes in time, but won't find a stun. He gets off to the side anyway. At least immunes the dive, but this is how much pressure there is topside. Fiora not getting off the launching pad.
And Kobe, both our eyes went to that Executioner's calling, because the only reason not to build Trinity Force and teamfight better as a champion who's going to be staying away from the lane in the late game and wanting to teamfight more is to keep attacking top lane now. So this is very much an item build that tells Zeros 3 people come in top whenever possible from SKT.
And the biggest thing to keep your mind on for a game like this with so much action is flash cooldown timers. Keeping track of these is essential. Remember, they had that visit towards mid lane where they also burned both of Faker's summoner spells. That's why those wards are so important. But bot side!
Well, a flash into the charm, a bit of a knock-up there as well, but they just simply can't find any of these kills. Health bar's a little bit low, and now under the turret. Shuhao goes for round 2, repels away. He's got to watch out for turret aggro. Can't get to the chickens just yet, but he's got spiders. He's just fine. A dive in the mid lane does work out for Phong Vu Buffalo.
So they do return to the mid lane. After burning both of Faker's summoners, they finally cash in on the kill, but SKT want to answer on top side. That's going to destroy the turret.
They are happy to play around Khan. There is no chance this turret lives. First turret plus the plates. Lots of pressure here, and you can see Zeros knows that, of course, they can dive him afterwards. Goes for the wave, but now in a 1v2. Fights off against Klid. Gets knocked up yet again. Puts the ult down. Has to immune that. Does so. Gets the heal. Oh, but the fear knocks him out of it, and SKT has the damage in the 2v1.
And let's take a moment as PVB will get this. No, they won't, actually. Teddy's coming over to run him off.
Moments, Kobe.
We are still fighting. They're not always kills. This one just might be. Matza does not have flash. They put the ignite on as well, burning through the shield. They might just have the damage. Feathers fly and a kill comes through. Big Coral makes it a third for Phong Buffalo. Now Teddy fights against shield as well, jumps to the wall. One more shot can get him. And it's going to be Big Coral walking up with his size, blocks it away. Ocean Drake will go trade it over to PVB.
This is the type of game we wanted to see from PVB. They're still looking for those plays. They get the Ocean Drake an extra kill off of bottom side, and they are still in this.
But it's breathless action, and we have to sit back for a second and take stock of where the wins are coming. Looking for a snipe. Not going to find anyone on that one is Teddy. Everything from SKT has been thrown topside, including the Rift Herald we talked about being picked up. That turret goes down. Faker, we got our confirmation, never went Hex Strength, but did try to build that Trinity Force. Doesn't have the shield. If he had the shield, it would have been at least one more turret shot. Who's to say how the turn would have been? But mid lane and bot lane has been the focus from PvP. They've got the answering Rift. Oh, the answering Ocean Drake, but the kill score overall, very even.
Game though, look at this, 3,500 gold puts SKT ahead. That's top lane with all the turrets, the extra kill, the extra farm. They are smashed. Top advantage, 2,100.
And let's take a moment now to go over the learnings from SKT after the game one opener, right? Where everyone was so surprised and they got destroyed through topside by G2 with that Jace pick, so efficiently. Since then, Clid has put so much focus towards Khan's lane and ensuring that that does not happen again. They've actually turned it into a point of strength for themselves. And once again, the top turret is the first turret that SK Telecom claimed.
But the moment that Fiora gets a bit more gold into her items, whatever the lead is, eventually things will be fine for her. So I want to see, after the next, say, honeymoon phase pre-20, how can Khan transfer his lead to the teamfight phase, which is really what he needs to do. It's not enough to keep a health lead on a Fiora in the 1v1. They actually have to find a way to use that big horsey to win the 5v5s.
Very true. It is going to be about trying to force that fight, because PvB, they gain so much from spreading out the map here. And now we do have Clid in the mid lane trying to hover around. Meanwhile, we have bottom side extra members here for PvB, with Elise lying in wait.
Okay, bot lane team fighting could be important. If you think about SKT wanting to win the 5v5s, well, Zai's really good against Hecarim. Of course, you can immune that charge every time and be a big carry. So if Big Coral gets the money, maybe you can be okay. No fight to be had just yet here.
And the item build paths that are done when the Infernal Drake spawns in a couple of minutes are going to be fascinating. Look, for example, at LeBlanc, who's slowed down on completing the Lost Chapter into something like the Ludens, and it's gone double flat pen to try to blow someone up. So if you get a vision lead around something like the Infernal Drake, LeBlanc can pick someone, take them down. But double Trinity Force and a huge Hecarim is the big tool SKT has. Right now, we're fighting for the enemy blue.
Pallet now forced over the wall. Fight for blue if does go over as Juhao gets that one, but can't give it over to LeBlanc, who does have a bit of a smaller mana pool. And now this fight over the top side, you can see Vital's doing pretty well, but the knockup comes in. And this might just be enough to knock down Null. He's low, but not going to be dying just yet. Clid, no ult comes through. And looks like he'll stay alive if they're burning flash, but nothing lost for SKT.
Yeah, big pressure advantages for SK Telecom across the map. Mid, bot, and top, all pushing in, forcing damage onto these turrets.
And because of that, PvB have to find a way to stave off this push and set up a pick bush to kill someone with a Lace and LeBlanc. Otherwise, a 2-level lead Hecarim on a TP ward. Goodbye to PvB's hopes of Infernal Drake.
Goes really well, of course, with time and a lot of champions on both teams who could really use that extra scaling. But Koro getting pushed around and down to 200 HP. Another Mystic Shot will kill him! And he has to back off. He didn't want to burn ult in that one. That means a lot of turret pressure here.
Flank here from Pallet on the Recon coming down the river, but they don't have much to back at flank up.
No. Just turret to half HP and top lane pressure still going great. As Future's Calling, as you mentioned, applies on all physical damage, so even just the Qs will do it. Doesn't have to auto-attack, and it's very easy to win that trade against Zeros. Mid pressured in as well. Every single lane, advantage for SKT. Bit of wave clear, but without Luden's Echo, it's not quite as good as you'd want it. Finally gets rid of the minions. That turret, though, at about 15%, and everywhere SKT are just winning.
Yeah, SK Telecom, if they can now establish vision through the jungle, then the PvP composition will completely collapse. It does not play well from behind here. So this Infernal Drake will determine so much for how the mid game is going to go. If SKT can finish off these turrets and get that vision control, it is going to be a very scary situation for PVB to face check.
And just as we transition into the 5v5 phase, I want to really focus my praise onto Clid. Because right now, if you look at the lanes he had to work with, when it comes to lanes for a Rek'Sai gank, Ezreal Tahm Kench not great, Corki has no CC. Yes, Khan can potentially set something up, but it's conditional. This was really about Clid just setting up a huge lead, and the fact that he has 100% kill participation and 3 out of the 4 kills is why SKT have really stuck the landing on what could have been a really passive farming early game like game 1 of this tournament for them.
I think that's why so many people were so excited when Clid joined SK Telecom. You know, one of the top junglers in the LPL being added to this squad really changed the face of what people know from the organization.
But he has his style. He was aggressive in the LPL on JDG. He's still aggressive on SKT. And he had one of the most impressive entrance interviews I've seen of an SKT player, but we'll hold that story.
Wow.
They force a flash out of the Elise. They're setting up for this Infernal they desperately crave.
Another ult burn by Fiora. Gets 3 of the vitals, but not enough. Just pushes Hecarim over the wall. Ravenous Hydra keeps that sustain going nicely. More poke out from Teddy. And that turret shot is about 2 auto attacks from dying away as the Infernal Drake has spawned. Then outside of the Scuttlecraft that was taken a little while ago, there's not a lot of vision here for Phong Bu Buffalo. SKT will indeed knock down that turret, and it's 3-0 on that scoreline. Infernal Drake, waiting for PVB to come around. They still want to fight for this one. You mentioned that being a very important crux here in this. If they can be fought for, and so far it's a bit equal.
Well, keep in mind, the bottom turret just went down, and the teleport for Hecarim is ready. So now SKT, they close their grasp on the Infernal Drake. They will secure this extra damage for the late game, and their pathway is clear.
And for PVB, to me, they were clearly posturing because, yes, Fiora had TP and could join, but she used the ultimate a long time ago. It's on cooldown for another quarter of that long cooldown, especially at level 2. And because of that, they really weren't going to come in with an inferior teamfight ultimate like the Fiora ult late, so it just seemed like a matter of time till SKT could pick up in turn.
I would say the next order of business for PVB and trying to manufacture a comeback in this game is making use of the Elise, LeBlanc, and Rakan. One of these champions has to find the surprise attack on an SK Telecom member, and they have to have damage behind them to follow this up. Scryer's Bloom finds a couple of those surprise attacks.
Yeah, as you mentioned, he's sitting in the brush like, all right, maybe it's top lane, maybe Hecarim or Faker or someone shows up, and no. Not at all, gets revealed out, unlucky.
And for pick power, like the champions you're mentioning, Kobe, you need a vision lead somewhere. You need a reason for someone to walk.
They're just going to go with the flash shield. Everything going to try to chunk down Mata. And at some point, there's got to be a route, but Clit's coming around as well. Elise might come in for a little bit more. Looks like damage, can't find that just yet, but here comes the Rek'Sai. Big damage for Clit on a rampage now for the 5
He's
kill.
a monster.
Looking for yet another double kill on the
get out.
One traded back now for Ezreal, and now Fiora has to do all of it, but still 2 vitals left up. Can't find the target. Flashing in for it. Finally gets a kill on the board, but this team fight is 4-1 already. Clit getting 3 to himself. SKT just smashing.
Clid is insane. 6-0 on the Rek'Sai. We like to see the junglers getting the credit that they deserve, and he's got the bounty on his head to prove it.
He just knows his limits. He knows he can launch into the backline 1v3, and then with just damage being peppered by the Ezreal, come out with a triple kill. They'll come out with a Baron and SKT. That might be more than the Buffaloes can hold.
Incredibly fast Baron Null. Can't even get over the wall. Actually shorts that one as well. So this is a guarantee. And look at this gold lead. SKT completely in control. Started with aggressive plays in the top side. They got the ganks to work. And then a controlled game for all the turrets, the Drakes, and now the Baron.
And watch the replay of this play. They didn't look for the setup. They just said, we've got a control ward. Let's start it. It's now or never. They had a lot of damage on Tamada. But look at what Clid was considering when he flashed in on first 2 and eventually 3.
Yep, gonna use the ultimate here. Takes down the AD carry first, then turns on his lover, and Pallet goes down. Now, I thought it was gonna get a little bit dicey, but Mata comes in, gonna sacrifice himself, takes the Rek'Sai up the river a little bit, then they get the knock up, finish off the last kill there, and it is a triple for Clid.
Went from a love story to a tragedy very fast for the Lovers duo, and Clid, on his entrance to SKT, an interview with Korean media said, my only concern is I am an aggressive jungler, and I'm not sure whether Faker can actually back up my style. This is the interview of a player who, to Korean fans, was very unknown. Playing for JDG, not even a premier team in the LPL, and not having played in Korea. Very few knew what to expect. They know plenty right now.
That is definitely a lot of the reason SKT are winning right now. Faker himself actually yet to get on the positive side of the scoreboard here. And then the set a little bit, but some decent lane pressure and decent farm. It's SKT. The rest of the crew built around him, doing so much heavy lifting here. Looking like 2-1 to start out their day 2 of MSI 2019. As more and more of these turrets fall down to 6 already, only inhibitors and their defenders stand alive now.
And this type of strong performance from SK Telecom only goes to further build the hype for their matchup with IG later today. Right now, they are knocking at the doors with Baron buff, whittling down all of the inhibitor turrets at once.
Bottom lane about to drop. There is Fake continuing his PvE pushing, doing very well with that. Great farm, great XP, and killing more of the structures. Mid lane maybe next on the chopping block, down to about 1/4 health there. And as soon as the auto attacks come in, that might be going down soon enough. Phong Buffalo, don't know when they can make their defense actually happen. Still at 80 seconds on that Baron buff.
Yeah, I think honestly their best shot was the play that they tried to pull off in the mid lane. If it wasn't for that exhaust from Mata on Big Koro during the CC exchange, then they might have been able to get that kill and find a way back in. But now it's SK Telecom just closing their grasp.
Absolutely. PVB are paying for the sins of the past. Right now, 3 lanes pushing in. Only Xayah has relevant wave clear from safety. So unfortunately for them, 2 inhibitors go down, SKT back off the map, and PVB just picking up the very, very small pieces. And Fiora doesn't even have her 2-item breakpoint we always talk about, and split push with no map control is so hard.
And to me, the crown jewel of this whole comp for PVB was the Fiora into Hecarim pick that they saved for last pick here. And yet, they didn't have the support for it early on. Clid, the biggest factor, was the early game of him again forcing this victory for SKT on the top side and then utilizing this throughout the game.
So returning to what we were looking for from SKT, adjustments. It's not just priority when it comes to SKT. This game, they had an early game plan that both enhanced their hopes of teamfighting. Hecarim, always a massive team fighter, but took away the primary win condition of Zeros on the split.
Yeah, and that was, of course, Clid doing all that work topside. Every single time it looked like he won the guessing game of when do I knock up versus when do you riposte. Got the knock, but every single one of those fights, riposte came in afterwards. There's a quick red buff handoff to the Ezreal as well. So Clid, my man of the match, very obviously for all the massive plays he did. And as you mentioned, shutting down that Zeros win condition. So SKT, look at it now, 12,000 gold lead up to Infernal Drakes, double inhibitor down as well.
And since they drafted the Corki and the Ezreal, they have plenty of firepower to back this up. That's why it's so difficult when they come to siege your turrets later in the game, whether they have Baron buff or not. The rockets come through, the Mystic shots come through, all this poke is landing, and this is going to be the end of the turret.
Exactly, with only the I's to be dotted and the T's to be crossed, you start casting your mind forward, Kobe. We've got SKT versus IG as the final game of the day, and SKT in much improved form in this PVB series.
Null's sort of committed there, just the poke. Null gets mauled off that top turret. This one's going to fall right away. Just in case you needed it, demolishes there. Chunk, down it goes. Killer credit goes to Mata. And the final inhibitor going to drop. We're not even 26 minutes in just yet, and the base is completely in shambles. Supers hitting the Nexus turrets already. This is their second siege after Baron's already gone. SKT have gone all out for this one, and this could be the final push. This is the last desperate attempt for Phong Buffalo if they can find some kind of opening from a catastrophic gold deficit. Zero's going to chunk to about 2/3 HP already, and SKT just waiting for the next minion wave.
Yeah, all they have to do is play patiently, stay inside the base, keep up the pressure here, and now we're going for the Nexus turrets.
Well, the E has been pulled to one less wave clear tool available as the turrets still get dropped down below half HP. Now on both of them, looking at more chunks coming back and forth. Still, you got the Hecarim waiting around. When does Khan want to go in? Not just yet, but still pushing in these waves. Still getting the poke, pushing PVB lower and lower, saying you have to go in first. A nice trade of bolts, a great dodge by Big Koro, pops the heal. Zeros now low as well. SKT still can just wait for another wave. His turret gets hit and is almost down. And here's the next round of supers, and it's now the open Nexus at 26:30. And SKT say, you know what? We've got Baron in 25 seconds. We'll cross those T's one more time. We know we can wait for one last neutral. The flash in!
Got it!
He gets it! Null makes a huge play. Some money coming into the pockets.
That one was from downtown. That one buys them a full reset, a bit of gold, some experience. The dream of a victory, that one still seems very far away, but even something to get the crowd going in front of the home crowd is a nice thing to discuss.
All right, let's keep trimming them, shall we? Because
Okay.
I like to imagine a world where crazy comebacks actually do
Okay,
happen.
I'm with you.
All right, we'll take a look at the replay. First, because Null is the guy trying to keep hope alive for Vietnam. He gets the big shutdown there onto Ezreal. Your next step is going to have to be hoping that SKT actually start that Baron, and you send someone to go steal it. If Elise can actually steal that, he has Flash right now, he has a Repel. It would definitely take some negligence from SK Telecom to allow that to happen, but that is the hope.
Not often when you say negligence in League of Legends, that's an understatement, but they have 3 inhibitors down, another Infernal spawning.
Oh!
And then now you got more problems.
And Faker's on the board with his first kill. Looking for the second, flashing over the root. A double kill almost by himself now is, oh, poor Shuhao has to run away, but he's smited. He's been knocked up, and one last auto will kill him. The Prey Seeker doing just that as well. The Fear, he's going to have the swipe. Oh, the minions, oh, they might do it as well. And he gets out of the fountain.
Khan, what are
he's
you
going to
doing?
try. And Khan gets the shutdown just for good measure. The Nexus drops a bit of spice for the ace, and SK Telecom pick up their second win of MSI.
Khan decides he wants to win